As Cheryl and Akika both shared, today we're celebrating and honoring Ishimi and Kakushimi, Shinran's wife and daughter. So while we all know that Shinran is our founder of Jodo Shinshu, it's really important for us to know that Lady Ishimi and Lady Kakushimi were both instrumental in sharing the teachings of the Buddha as we know them today. This is one of the reasons why the BWA, the Buddhist Women's Association, and TCBA, our organization here in the Twin Cities, honors them in a memorial service every year. In doing a little bit of research, I believe we found the first time we celebrated these two women was in November of 2018 when Gail shared a Dharma talk giving the history and going back in time and sharing the message with us about these two women. Followed by, I know Shami has shared with us and Deborah has shared a message with us. So really what I wanted to share today was not going back through what everyone shared with us in the past, but to touch on their legacy and really share two stories about two women in our Twin Cities Sangha today. And apologize in advance for technology being goofy on my end. Ishimi supported Jodo Shinshu as she helped her husband as a spouse and financially, allowing him to spread the Dharma. She also clearly followed her husband's view on marriage and was not an impediment to being a nun or following her religious beliefs. Congregations throughout began to look at the couple's example as husband and wife and really began to lead teams together. Many regarded Ishimi as the mother of Jodo Shinshu. And additionally, in the history, we find that the 10 letters found in the Honganji archives years later helped us to weave together her story and created a more documented legacy for us to follow. Kakushimi was not only her father's caregiver in his final years, but after his death, she was revered for planting the seeds of the organization to grow into the Honganji as we know it today. She kept Shinran's memory alive by creating a mausoleum with money she had from the Otani family. And it was Kakushimi who donated the land to build this mausoleum where people can come to respect and pay tribute to to Shinran Shonin as the founder of Jodo Shinshu Buddhism. The caretakers of this mausoleum would be direct descendants of both Shinran and Kakushimi. The mausoleum would be converted in later years by her grandson, who named the temple the Honganji. And that's how we know it today. The establishment of the Honganji, as well as longtime Gomanchu or leaders of Jodo Shinshu, are all due to her direct descendants. So today, as I speak, I wanted to talk about two women during this annual memorial service as we remember them. But before I do that, I would like everybody to just take 2 minutes to reflect on two women who have been impactful to you personally, who may have changed your life, who may have taught you a lesson, but we are going to be silent for 2 minutes and give us some time to reflect and think about these two women. And just so you know, I won't ask anybody to share, so please take the time to think. Okay. I hope no one fell asleep. I see many happy faces and smiles. I see your eyes filled with gratitude, people remembering something that was very important to them. For me, as I reflect quietly, and I did this ahead of time, I think of two women in our Sangha. Like Ishimi and Kakushimi, they have impacted my life personally and bring gratitude and happy memories of Buddhist teachings to my eyes. Both women are known for the roles that they play in our Sangha today. In 2014, I first moved to the Twin Cities and started attending quarterly services, which were held at the YWCA. Thanks to Ben and Gail, who picked me up and took me to the YWCA, I made it to services. I remember I was invited to attend Mochitsuki at one of our members' homes. I recall I was a bit shy. I didn't really know anybody except Gail and Ben, who at that time I met once, but I decided to go. So when I arrived, I was greeted with a big hello at the door and encouraged to come to the garage to make mochi. I remember seeing the adults and children working together. Young boys were working in harmonies with their dads and fathers, pounding the mochi, actually turning and touching and pounding the mochi. The adults pounded, the kids turned, the kids pounded, the adults turned. In my family, kids were never allowed to touch the pounding process in making mochi. This was so exciting to see. And in our church, we had a machine. You turned it on and it made mochi. So this was an experience in itself. Next, when the mochi was fully pounded, the mochi was transferred to a table filled with cornstarch. I can remember there was a lot of cornstarch there. The mochi was in one sticky big glob, and the glob was broken into smaller pieces where everyone standing around the table took pieces of mochi, flattened them out into little balls, patted them down into little round cakes. Everyone was having so much fun making mochi, laughing, throwing cornstarch. They were coming out slightly different sizes, a bit lumpy, and placed on a table in imperfect rows. I thought to myself, what a mess. We are probably going to get yelled at by the person in charge when she checks our work. And then a woman came into the garage where we were working, covered in cornstarch, and said, "Great job, everyone. These mochi look beautiful. Thank you so much for your hard work." At that very moment, I felt welcomed. I felt good about what we had accomplished. The mess became a beautiful work of art. No one said how bad we were doing, sent the mochi back to be redone. This lady in charge, she really appreciated all of us for our mochi. Wow. For me, this was a true practice of a Buddhist leader. And I remember it clearly 10 years ago to this month, maybe not this date. Thank you, Cheryl Tsuchiya. You have made an impact on me. And this is only one tiny example of how you care for our TCBA Sangha. You are the TCBA Ishini, the mother of Jodo Shinshu to all of us. You are naturally inclusive and welcoming, so seamlessly that you probably don't even realize it. And you don't know the impact you've had and all of us. And lastly, always reminding us that all are welcome. In every newsletter, every time you communicate, reminding us that all are welcome to participate in TCBA. Okay, at the same Mochitsuki, I met Chiami Balai. Reverend Chiami today, and her daughter, Emily, and Max and Sasha. I'm glad you're there because I met you too. My first lesson from Chiami was the meaning of characters in Emily's name. This was really touching to me because my niece is named Emily too. Like Kakushini, Chiami is devoted to the education of Jodo Shinshu teachings. And like Kakushimi, she is always planting seeds to help our Sangha grow. The teachings and to learn the teachings of the Buddha. Even today, as you attend this service, Chiami talks to us and explains the why of why we are having meditation, what we need, how we hold our ninju on our left hand, how we place our hands in our lap when we're meditating. She is always one to share the why, explaining everything to us. When I saw once Ohagi on her Obutsudan, she didn't even share, this is Ohagi on my Obutsudan that I made this morning. She followed up by sharing the recipe on how to make it with my mother and I following the service on Zoom. And Chiami, I did make it that morning. One of Chiami's most meaningful messages to me was sharing family photos and stories of her family temple in Japan. Not only did she personally describe how everything was perfectly set up and perfectly placed at the altar, she also shared the imperfections. What doesn't go well, it's okay. What sometimes happens, it's okay. What my grandpa told me or Oji-chan told me, it's okay if we do this differently. Growing up in the temple family, she shared about how children play at the altar. This really made Chiami a real person to me, not only a reverend and a mother and a friend to so many. She really teaches us how to learn Buddhist lessons. Another lesson you shared, Chiami, was that weaving of gold thread in a scary fable about turning into a crane, but there's always excitement in her voice, what she shares, and she does it for people of all ages. She listens to us, shares messages with us. Techno Hoyo is a perfect example how she's growing the work that needs to be done to continue Sangha's growing throughout not only Twin Cities, but throughout the BCA. So Chiemi, thank you for teaching and being the true sensei to so many of us. So today, because this is a Dharma talk, I would like everyone to think back about the two women that have impacted their lives, not one, but two. That's your takeaway. Please share with them personally the impact they have made and why they have made that impact in your life. If they are no longer with us, please share with a friend or a family member. Or you could always share with me, open to calls or email. But share with someone today, those people you were thinking of. And remember, we are remembering these two women in your lives because we are celebrating and honoring Lady Ishini, the wife of Shinran Shonin, and Lady Kakushini, the daughter of Shinran Shonin. With that, Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu.